Good morning, guys. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Good morning,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Very good morning. So today we are going to discuss a few more collection classes. I mean, few more generic collection classes. In our last session, we have discussed a list collection class, list of T collection class, right? So which is a generic collection. So today we are basically targeting three more generic collection classes. So one is dictionary, then we will discuss stack, and then we will discuss key. Queue, right? And while I'm going to discuss, I will also make you aware what is the difference between our generic collection as well as non-generic collections, right? So now let us start the discussion by discussing the important one of the important generic collection classes, that is a dictionary, right? In our last session, we have discussed list, which is very useful and one of the important collection class. Like the list, dictionary is also one of the important collection classes, right? Let us first discuss the dictionary collection class. Then I will show you what is the difference between a dictionary and a list collection class, and when you need to go for a dictionary, and then I will also show you when you need to go for a list collection class. So what we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss what is a dictionary, then we will see how to add how to create a generic dictionary object, how to add elements into it, right? Element into it means we need to add the element in the form of a key value pair, right? How we will discuss how we can define the key, how we can define the value, how we can make use of add method to add elements. Then we will discuss how to access the element from a collection, right? What are the different options available that we can use to access the element of a generic dictionary. Then as it is, we will also see how to check whether an element exists in the dictionary or not, how to remove one element, right? How to remove all elements from the dictionary, how we can assign some value to the key, how we can update the key value. Then we will see how we can work with the complex data type with the dictionary collection class. Then there is an important method try get value, that is what we are also going to discuss. And finally we will discuss how we can get all the keys as well as how we can get all the values of a dictionary, right? And then we will discuss what is the difference between a list and a dictionary, right? So guys, if you remember, we have discussed something called hash table in our non-generic collection classes. It is exactly same as the hash table, right? The dictionary collection, what available in the system dot collections dot generic namespace, its working style is similar to the non-generic hash table collection, right? So if you remember, we have a class called hash table in our system dot collections namespace, which is also going to store the data in the form of a key value pair, but in that case the key is going to be object type as well as the value is going to be object type, that right? So in that case we do not need to mention the key and value because they are operate on object data type, and any type of a value we can define as a key, and any type of a value we can store according for that particular key, right? So similarly, the dictionary generic collection, which belongs to system.collections.generic namespace, means it's a generic collection. Generic collection means you have to specify the data type. You have to specify the type parameter for the key as well as type parameter for the value while creating an instance of the dictionary class. And it is also going to store the data, right, in the form of a key value pair, right? So what is the difference between the hash table and the dictionary means, in the case of a dictionary, we need to specify the type for both key as well as type for value, right? But this is not possible in the case of a hash table. In a hash table, they operate on object data type. The key is going to be object as well as the value is going to be object. But in this case, you need to specify the type for the key as well as you need to specify the type for the value. And as it's a collection, right? As we are discussing collection framework, what it means the size can grows automatically as we add items into the collection, right? So whenever you are going on adding elements to the collection, the size is going to be automatically increased, right? Now let us discuss few important points. The few important point means the key cannot be known, right? Suppose you are defining some key value pair. Now, while you are creating a collection means you have to specify the key and value. So whatever key you define, you cannot set that key as a null, right? But the value can be null if the type is a reference type. For example, here key you might be defined integer, you might be defined string. That is fine. If you define integer string, no matter you can define, but you cannot pass null value to that key. But the it might be null or it might not be null. For example, if you are defining some value data type, right? Value data type in the sense, can anybody tell me some example of a value data type,
Int,
guys?
Boolean,
Sorry, int. Yeah, yes. The data type whose type is struct, it's a value data type. You can take integer, float, right? You can take integer, float, boolean, character, double, right? All these are value data type, right? And if you define the type as a value data type, suppose you define int or suppose you define boolean, then you cannot pass null value for this value parameter, right? But if you define this value as a reference type, for example, you define string, you define object, you define employee, you define student, you define product, right? In that case, you can pass null for the value parameter, right? So you understand, key cannot be null, but the value can be null if its type, key value is a reference type. If it's a value type, then you cannot pass null value. If it's a reference type, then you can pass a null value. Every key must be unique, right? Suppose you are defining one integer as the key, 10, 20, 30, you can pass, but 2 times 10, 2 times 20, it will not accept. The key cannot be same, right? Duplicate keys are not allowed. If you try to add duplicate key, then the compiler will throw one exception, right? In generic dictionary collection, you can store the same type of elements, right? And if I compare this thing with the non-generic collection, right? In the case of a non-generic collection, that is the hash table. In the case of hash table, you can store any type, same time or different types of value because they operate on object data type. But in this case, you cannot store different types of data, right? Whatever type you define for key, the same type of data you can pass as a key. Whatever type you defined for the value parameter, right? The value parameter, the same type of value you can only pass. You cannot pass different types of value. The capacity of a dictionary collection is the number of elements that the dictionary can hold, right? So now let us try to see. Going further, I'm not going to discuss the constructors, right? So I'm directly going to use the class to create the instance, right? Because it's the same thing, right? Same thing discussing it again and again, it will take more time, right? So I'm directly going to use the class and create the constructor and show you the things practically, right? Now let us see how to create an instance or how to create an object of a dictionary collection, right? So if you go to the definition of a dictionary, right, dictionary key value, right, then you will see that, suppose I'm providing integer and string, right? Then you will see that it's a class, right? It's a class. It's not a static class. It's a non-static class. Non-static class means if you want to access any member, any non-static member of this class, then what you need? You need an instance of this class. How you can create? You can see there are many different overloaded version of the constructor is available. You can use any of the overloaded version to create an instance, right? I'm going to discuss everything from the scratch. So I'm going to use the constructor which does not take any parameter, right? So while creating the instance, right, you can see it's a generic class. It's a generic class, and here this class accepts two parameter. So here we are defining two parameter. To type parameter, you can say one parameter is for key and one parameter is for value. So while creating an instance of this class, we need to specify what is the type or key and what is the type or value like this. So key data type, value type, right? See, once you create the dictionary collection, then you can see there is a add method, right? By using this add method, you can add the element. And remember, what is the first parameter? The first parameter is TKey. What is the second parameter? The second parameter is TValue. So whatever type you defined while creating the instance, that type of a data you can pass as argument to this method. If you define this as integer, then the first parameter to this add method must be integer. If you define this value as a employee, the second parameter what you need to pass to this add method is nothing but an instance of the employee class. Suppose you define the second parameter as a string, then a string value you need to be passed as a second argument to this add method, right? So you can use this add method to add elements, right? So you can see this add. For example, suppose in this case, you can see I'm creating the dictionary object by specifying the key is string as well as the value is going to be string. So you can see I'm specifying this is my key and this is going to be my value, right? So in the same way, you can see I'm not adding any duplicate keys, right? The key can be the key must and should be unique, right? And this is one of the option of adding elements to the dictionary. And guys, remember whenever any dictionary provides this add method, right? You can also use collection initializer. If the dictionary class okay, if the collection class does not have this add method, then you cannot use that collection initializer. If the class provides the add method, then you can use the collection initializer to add elements, right? In this case, this dictionary class provides the add method means you can also add element by using the collection initializer like this. So collection initializer, it's something similar to declaring an array with elements, right? While you are creating an array, you can also store the you can initialize that array with some element. In the same way, while creating the dictionary collection, if you are initializing the dictionary with some element, then this is nothing but you can say you can say creating and initializing the dictionary, right? In this case, this statement is nothing but creating the dictionary, and this statement is nothing but your initializing the dictionary. So these two options are available. And again, in this case, whatever the key you define that you need to pass as a first parameter, and whatever type you provided for the value that needs to be passed as a second parameter, right? Now, so you understand how to create an instance, you need to follow this syntax. How to add element, we have two options. You can add element by using add method, or you can add element by using the collection initializer. So once you create the dictionary, once you add the element, then we need to understand how to access the element of the collection, right? Like hash table, here also we have multiple options, right? What are the options? Let us understand, right? Hash table, you can access the element by using the keys, right? In this case, what is the key? UK. What is the key? USA. What is the key? India. So by using this dictionary collection, by using this square bracket, you need to provide the key, and whatever the value associated with that key, this dictionary collection is going to return, right? Whatever associated value that is going to be written. So by using key, you can access the element. But remember, if you are providing one key and if that key is not available in this collection, then it is going to throw you one exception, which is not happening in the case of a non-generic collection. But in the case of a generic collection, if you are trying to access one element by using the key as an index, and if that key is not present in the dictionary, then you will get one exception, right? So before accessing the element by using the key, first of all you need to make sure the key is exist in the dictionary, and once you make sure that the key is exist in the dictionary, then only you need to paste the element by using the key. So this is one option, that is by using the index position. Another option is by using the for each loop. What you need to do, you need to provide this dictionary element, dictionary countries, or what is your dictionary collection to the for each loop, and you know what is how to access. You have to use key value pair, and this key value pair having two properties, right? One is key and one other is value. The key property is going to hold the key, and the value property is going to hold the associated value of that key. And using the key property, you can access the key, and using the value property, you can access the associated values of that particular key. Another option, right? And if you go to the position, why I'm able to access this dictionary by using index, only because of this, right? Only because of this. You can say this is nothing but your indexer, and this indexer expecting one key, right? And what is the associated value of that key, right? This indexer is going to return. So now let us understand how to get the value, right, by using a for loop, right? So actually, in the system.linq namespace, there is a method called element art. And that element art method will take the index position, and what is the key available in that index position, that method is going to return. And once you got the key, right, then you can access the value that we have already discussed, right? So you can see I'm looping through my dictionary collection. This count property, as we already discussed in our previous sessions, is going to return me the number of elements that is available in my collection. So in this collection, currently 3 elements are available, right? So it is going to return me 3, and this loop will execute from 0 to 2, right? And you can see dictionary collection dot keys. So it will going to return me all the dictionary collection dot keys. This property is going to return me all the keys, but I'm not interested for all the keys. I just want to know what is the key available inside this particular index position. For that, what I'm using element at I. Element at I means 0. So this dictionary countries dot keys is going to return me all the keys. Out of all the keys, which key is present in the index position 0, which key is present in the index position 1, which key is present in the index position 2. That particular key is going to be written by this element method, and that key, I know it is going to be a string type because I have created this collection by using string and string. So you can see this collection is created by using string and string. So this is going to return me a string value, right? I'm storing that string value inside a string variable, and then by using the indexer and by using this key, I can access the value. So these are the 3 different ways that you can use to access the element of a dictionary collection. Now, let us see this thing practically so that you will get more idea. Right. So you can see I'm creating a dictionary where key equal to key type is going to be string, right? This is not key, this is going to be T key in our case, and this is going to be T value. So value is also going to be string. So I'm specifying key as string and value as string. So now I'm using the add method. Later I will show you the collection initializer. And in this add method, the key is going to be UK, USA, India string. Value is also going to be the string. So you can see I'm specifying the different countries using double quotes, means it's a string value, right? So once you add element, then you can access the element by using a for each loop. As I mentioned, you can access this the dictionary. So whenever you are using the dictionary, if you are using a for each loop, you need to use key value pair class, right? If you go to this generic key value pair class, then you will see that this class having 2 properties. First of all, this class constructor having 2 properties. One is T key and one other is T value. And this is nothing but key and value properties, right? So by using the key, you can see in this case, this is string and string. So the key will be stored inside the key properties and the value will be stored inside the value properties. So I'm using key value pair to access the key as well as corresponding value, right? And this is the for loop, how to access the element by using the for loop. We have discussed this element at method is belongs to system.linq namespace, linq namespace, enumerable class, right? We are going to discuss linq in detail in our coming sessions, but for now, this is dictionary countries dot keys. Similarly, if you go to the this keys property is there, and if you go to the sorry, not here. If you go to the dictionary class, there are two properties. One is keys and one is values. If you want to fetch all the keys, then you can access those keys by using these keys properties. And if you want to access all the values, right, then see only values, not keys, then you can use these values properties. We will see one example. I will show you how you can access all the values and all the keys, right? And in this case, this will return me all the keys, but from all the keys, which key is present at this particular index position, that key I want to fetch, and that key it will return, and that key will be stored inside this variable. And then by using the indexer and by using that particular key, I can access the value. So here, this key is nothing but your key, and this value will return me the associated value. And we have already discussed by using the indexer, right? And using the key as an index, I can access the elements, right? Now, if you run the application, right? Now, if you run the application, then you will see the output as expected. See, I'm getting the output UK, USA, India, UK, USA, India, UK, USA, India, and the corresponding values. Anybody having any question?
Yes, sir. This in for each loop, instead of key value pair class, can we use anything else like where or something? Or
See,
we have to use this one only?
you can also use var. See, in this case, if you are using var, right, what it is going to return? See, I'm using var. Then what is the return type?
Okay, again key value pair. Okay.
Right. So see, var means what? Now, based on the right hand side value, it will decide the data type, right? And in this case, I know it is going to return me a key value pair, so I can directly use key value pair, which will make sense, right? If you do not know what type of values it is going to return me, then I have to go with var keyword. But if you know that it is going to return me key value pair, then I can directly use key value pair, right?
Yes. Good.
Okay. Any question from anyone?
No questions.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let us proceed further. So as I mentioned, we can add the elements in two ways. One of the way is by using the add method, and another way is collection initializer, right? So this is nothing but your collection initializer. Initializer means while creating the collection, you have to initialize the collection, right? And once you initialize, then you can access the element. Here I'm showing you how to access using for loop, even though you can also access the element by using index position, right? Indexer, and by specifying the key as an index, you can access by using for loop also. So this is nothing but collection initializer, right? Uh, okay, now how to check the availability of a key value pair? Already we discussed many times, right? So you can check whether a key is exist or not by using the contents key method, and you can also check whether a value is exist or not in the collection by using the contents value method. If the key exists, then this contents key method is going to return me what it will return. It will return true, and if the key does not exist, then it is going to return me false, right? But if you pass this key as a null, right, if you pass null value as a then it will throw you one exception. Why? Because as we mentioned, the key cannot be null. As key cannot be null, then it will restrict you to pass null value, and if you pass, then you will get null argument null exception. But value, you can pass null value for reference type, because reference type can store null value, right? So whatever value you pass, if that value is available, then this method is going to return you true. And if the value is not available, then this method is going to return you false. But in this case, you will not get any kind of exception when you pass null value, because null value is accepted for reference type, right? You can see this is my collection, and first of all, I'm printing all the data that are available on my collection. Then I'm checking whether this USA key is exist or not. whether this PAK key is exist or not, right? If the key is exist, it is going to return me true. If the key doesn't exist, it is going to return me false, right? Now I'm checking if India value is exist. If exist, then it is going to return me true. And if it does not exist, it is going to return me false. So in this case, I'm writing the code in the way that the first statement is going to return me true. The second one is going to return me false. So see, you say key exists, yes, exist, return true. Key does not exist, return false, true and a false. Now what I'm trying to do is, instead of this, I'm passing null value, right? So as per our understanding, key should not be null. And here I'm passing null value. See what happened? You will get value cannot be null. Parameter name key. So you cannot pass null value. So if you pass null value, then contains key method is going to throw me one exception, right? But in this case, what I'm passing null. Right. So in this case, I'm passing null, and you will see that it is also going to throw me value cannot be null, because here we are using string, right? String, even though it's a reference type, it is used like a built-in or primitive data type, right? So I'll show you one more example, right? Where I will create an employee class, and in that case, this method is not going to throw me any exception, right? Suppose. See, here it is throwing me some error. Why? Because see, even though string is a reference type, but it's a special type of a class, and we use this class like a value data type, right? Once we discuss our how to work with a dictionary collection, then I will show you how to store null value, and again I will show you how this contents value method is going to work. But remember, string is a reference type. Yeah, people are getting confused. People are getting that string is a value type, but string is a reference type. Even though it's a reference type, it is used like a value type. And this is it's a special type of class, right? So you can see it behaves like it's a reference type, but its behavior is similar to value type, right? So once we discuss our complex type, right? So employee, student, then I will show you how you can store null value and how you can make use of this contents value method with null, and at that time you will not get any kind of a exception, right? Now, how to remove the elements from the generic.
Can I have a question? Excuse me.
Yeah, ask me.
In the data up there, how can you have the same key in two different elements?
Sorry. This is a issue. Okay. Let me put this as. Sorry, this is the issue. It should not be the same key.
Yeah, but no, it's okay. But I understand you cannot have it. But why the system didn't tell you that that was a problem?
Sorry.
Okay, I understand you cannot have the same key in two different elements, but why the compiler or the runtime didn't tell you that it was wrong?
See, this is the compiler will not check what value is there. Compiler will check the type of the value, right? So type of the value means it will check whether it is a string type or other type. If it is a string type, then that is fine, right? But compiler will have no idea what is the value, because in this case we have hard coded the value. Sometimes the value might be coming from the database, right? Sometimes the value you are filling might be getting the data from the API, right? Once the API call is happening, then you will get the data from the API, and then you will fill the dictionary. Sometimes you are having a class, you are having a table in the database, and you want to fill your dictionary by getting the data from the table. Then at that time, you just need to create the dictionary. Signature is enough, right? Then at runtime, the value is going to be filled. So in this case, what compiler will do is compiler will check the type of the values, right? Whether it is a string type or not. If it is a string type value, then accept it and compile the application. right? If it is not string type, then the type check. See, compilation, see what I'm saying, the type checking is happening at compilation time, but value checking is not there. Type checking and value checking are two different things, right? Type checking means it will check the type of the values, not what value is stored. Value will come into the picture when we run the application. Clear?
Well, yes, but I mean, suppose in a database and you establish a key like a unique, for instance, right? Then if you
Exactly.
try to insert that value, you get an error, right?
Exactly.
So I was wondering if you do that and you try to compile it, if you're gonna get an error because you are not supposed to have a repeat key. That's what I was trying
No.
to find out
No.
if the system, so it's not like a primary key in the sense that you cannot do it. You can do it, but you shouldn't, something like that.
Yes, yes, yes. So in database, suppose you are creating, see in the database, if you are creating some primary key or unique key column, that is fine, right? But in the sense, suppose you are working with some unique key. In the case of a unique key, that will accept one null value in SQL Server database, right? Then even though that unique key accept one and null value in the database, you cannot use that column value as the key in the dictionary, because the null is not going to be accepted as a key value, right? That you need to make sure that your key should be unique, right? But the thing is that compiler will not check the value, right? Compiler will check the type only. So in this case, instead of this string, if I'm passing some integer value, then the compiler will check this one. Yes, compiler will check, yes, whatever you are passing, it is not a kind. See, in this case, you can see it is giving me immediately one error, right? And even, okay, let me do one more thing. I'm just adding this data, right? Right. What error it is giving? It is not giving me error for the null value. It is giving me error for the key. What error it is giving me? Okay, let me remove first of all this one. Cannot convert from int to string. Does it is saying int or anything? No, he is not comparing the value, right? What he's checking? He's checking the type of the value, and in this case, the type is integer, and this integer cannot be converted to string, right? So you have to pass a string value.
Okay.
Understand?
Yeah, I understand that. Now, if you say add and you say again India and null and you run it, you get an error when you run it. I mean, when you run when you run the application, do you get right there
Yes.
when you run it, you get an error or not?
See, when you run this application at runtime, you will get the exception, but not at compilation time. Because at the compilation time, the compiler will
Okay,
check
okay.
whether it is a string or not. If it is a string, compilation successful. But at runtime, when the .NET runtime come into the picture, you will check the value, and once you compile the application, does this dictionary created? No, because the program, once your program execution happens, then only your collection is going to be created, then only your data is going to be stored inside the collection, right? But when you compile the program, your execution not happening. When you run the application, your execution happening, and when the execution happening, right, it will check it will create the dictionary, and it will store the element one by one, and while storing this element, at this time the application runs fine because int is not stored previously, right? But when you run when this statement is run, right, at this particular statement, again he is trying to add this element into the dictionary collection, and he finds that already one key with the same name exists, so we cannot add a duplicate key, and you will get the exception. See, as of now, I'm not getting any exception, because, and that means this dictionary is created with three elements. See, in the key UK value, this one key UK, right? So you can see we have already three elements, zero, and this is the element, one is the element, two is the element. Already three elements are there, right? But when I run this fourth statement, right, when I try to add this fourth element, it will give me a runtime exception. See, an item with the same key has already been added. Already you have added an item with the same key, so duplicate key is not acceptable.
Excellent. That's what I was asking. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. See, now we are going to discuss the same thing, right? How we can remove elements from the dictionary collection. Already we have discussed this thing in our hash table. So we have two options. One is a remove method and another one is cleared method, right? So if you go to the dictionary collection class, then you will find the clear method is there and you will find the remove method is there, right? So this is your clear method and this is your remove method. So what is the difference between these two? Can anybody tell me? Already we have discussed this thing many times.
You take one or you take all of them?
Exactly. So this remove method means you need to pass the key as a parameter. And if the key exists in the dictionary, then it will remove that key. But here the problem is if the key does not exist in the dictionary, then it will throw you one exception. And this clear method is basically used to remove all the elements from the collection, right? Let me show you this thing practically. Right, so you can see this is my dictionary having few elements, right? 5 elements are there, and before removing I'm just printing all the elements. In this case I'm not using key value pair and I'm not specifying that data type string and string. I'm using this var, but if you check this var, right, if you check, then it is by default taking key value pair string and string, right? So you can use key value pair string and string, or you can use var, but whatever you use, you will see this key and value properties. Key is going to return you the key, and whatever the value associated with that key, that is you can access by using the value properties, right? Now let's see. What I'm trying to do is, I'm just commenting this statement. So what I'm trying to do, I want to remove this element AUS. AUS is available? Yes, available. And I'm just removing the AUS element by using the remove method. AUS is the key and that element is going to be removed. After removing, I'm just printing the count and I'm using for each loop, and here I'm using the clear method, and again I'm trying to print the number of elements available in the collection, right? So in this case, you can see Australia is going to be the key, AUS is going to be removed, right? Original collection 5 elements. After removing Australia, the number of elements is going to be 4. You can see in the collection Australia is removed. After clearing the element, you can see the number of elements is 0, right? That is fine. Now you can see there is no key with the name NZ, New Zealand, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to remove this element NZ. But do we have any key with the name NZ in the collection? No. So in this case, when I run this application, you can see why it is not giving me it. I think this has been improved, right? See why it is not happening now, I don't know. But let me go to the remove method, go to the definition. Okay. Okay, so this has been improved, right? This has been improved in the sense what now in the latest .NET framework, they have improved this one. They have improved this one means what? Now earlier when we use, right? Earlier means older version of .NET framework, right? When we use this remove method, and if the key does not available, then at that time it is going to throw me one exception, right? But not now. Let me try to create a application using older .NET framework if available on my machine.
So you can change the .NET framework version instead of creating.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm just creating two different.
Okay.
Because when I created this application many times ago, right, I found that this going to give me one exception, but not now. That is what I'm trying to check. Which version? I don't know why it is not happening. Okay, if it's not working, then it's good. We have to change the definition, right? This method is used to remove the element with the specified key from the here the parenthesis element, right? We have to remove this statement because it will mislead, right? So currently, it is not throwing any exception. If key is null, then it is going to throw the exception, right? If key is null, then it is going to throw me the exception. What exception? Argument null exception, right? So basically, earlier days when we work, so if the key does not exist, then it is going to throw me some exception. But now in the latest framework, I know why it is not working because I have already installed the latest framework on my machine, right? That's why I think it's not working, but it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing in the sense, if it is not throwing me exception, then it is fine, right? But guys, remember you should use this one, right? Why I'm saying you should this one is because suppose the key is not available, right? If the key is not available, then you should give some information that this key does not exist, right? If the key is not available, you should give some message that the key is not available so that the user will get some idea, yes, something happening and this key is not available on my database, right? So NZ key is not available. So now if you run the application, then you will see that the else part is going to be execute, right? Dictionary, what is this? A dictionary collection and chat. This going to return me false. See, NZ key not available, right? But if you are not using this content scheme method, then you cannot make sure what happening inside this, whether the key is removed or not, that you will get confused. So always try to use this content scheme method when you are using this remove method, because if the key is not available, then you need to give some information, right? And how you can give the information by using this else block, right? Previously it is throwing some exception but not now, so you have to understand this statement, right? Initially there some exception are there but not now. This is a good thing, right? They have improved this one, right? So this method will try to remove the element from the given dictionary if the key is available, and it will return true. And if the element is not available, then it will return false. But if you pass the key as a null value, then it is going to throw me some exception, right? Clear, guys?
Clear.
Clear now? Okay. So means don't confuse, don't assume that this method is going to remove give you exception when the key is not available. It is going to give you exception only when you pass this key as a null value, because the definition itself saying this thing, right? If you go to the definition, then what type of a exception you can expect? You can expect the argument null exception when the key is null, right? Now we are passing the key as a null value, then according to its documentation, then it should throw me some kind of a exception. But in this case, you will not get exception because you have written and you have checked the condition, right? So let me remove the condition. Right now, if you run the application, then 100% it should throw you exception, right? Value cannot be null. So this is how you can remove the element, and you know what is this a clear method is all about, right? Now, how to assign value to a dictionary with index, right? We have already discussed this thing, right? We have already discussed this thing many times, right? Many times in the sense when we are using the hash table, I have shown you by using the indexer, right? And using the key name, you can assign the element, right? In this case, currently, you can see this is my dictionary countries, right? In this case, what I'm trying to do, dictionary countries that IND, India, right? In this case, if this India key is exist, then it will update the value. If this key is not exist, then it will add the value. In this case, you can see UK, US, India, Australia, Sri Lanka, right? These three keys are not available. So in this case, if you will add these three keys to this dictionary collection with these values, right? Now run the application. See, five values are there. So you can use this one. Now, suppose I want to like this. Okay, how to, okay, now let me show you another example of how we can update the value by using the indexer, right? So in this case, this dictionary is already having 5 elements, and this USA and India, these two key are already available, right? And now I'm using this UK and India. So UK is going to be updated, India updated, right? These two key are already exist in the dictionary. So in this case, it is not going to add the key, rather it will update the key value, right? So what I'm showing, so it should be UK, it should be UK, right? So after updating this value, it will give you the updated there, right? Now let me run the application, right? Before the updating UK, India, and after updating United Kingdom and updated India, updated. See, right? So by using this indexer, not only you can update the value, you can add the value, right? If the key is not available, then it will add the key with the associated value. And if the key is already available, then it will update the value of that particular key. Any question from anyone? Guys, is that clear? Clear?
Yes.
Okay, so by using this indexer key, you can update and you can assign value to the key, right? Now we are going to discuss generic dictionary with a complex data, right? Complex data. So you can see this is my class student, right? In this class, I'm having three properties: ID name and a branch. So now I need to create a dictionary of students, right? Where what I need to store. Now I need to make this ID value as a key and the student object as its value, right? So suppose I'm going to store three students with the ID 1, 2, 3, right? Then one should be the key, two should be the key, and three should be the key. And all these three columns, right? I mean, the student object is going to be my value. Then how I can make sure? Now I have to use this integer and student, right? In this case, I can pass the first parameter, right, as this, and second parameter is this one, right? If you do not like this, what you can do is you can create a different object, right? Suppose I'm creating variable student one, I'm creating one student, right? So I'm going to create three students, right? And the student two is going to be this one, This is going to be student 2, and this is going to be student 3, right? Right. So this is one option of like this. If you do not like this, right? What you can do is comment this one. I'm showing you the different options, right? Right. So what you can do, you need to pass two parameters. First parameter should be the ID, student ID, sorry, student ID, and the second parameter is nothing but your student 1.
One more curly braces.
Right. So these are the different options. So here you need to pass student 2, and here you need to pass student 3, right? This is one option. Another option is also there. What is that option? First, you need to create the dictionary, right? And to dictionary, there is a method called which method? Add method, right? The first parameter should be the key. What should be the key in this case? Student dot id. And what should be the second parameter? My student object. You can also use this mechanism, right? So in this case, let me copy 2 more times. Second one is going to be my student object, and the third one is going to be this student, right? So these are the different ways you can make use of this dictionary, right? By using the add method, right? This is my collection initializer. This is also collection initializer. But in this case, I'm making use of the existing student object. And here I'm creating the new student object in the collection initializer itself, right? But in this case, right? But in this case, suppose I'm trying to add another student, right? With the same key, right? Suppose I'm having a student 4. Okay. Hmm. In this case, if you look at the student data, student 4, and this data is going to be same. I mean what? The ID is going to be same. So in this case, same means this statement is going to give me some kind of a exception, right? Why exception? Can anybody tell me? Guys,
Duplicate key. Duplicate key.
duplicate key. So this statement is going to give me some kind of exception. Now in this case, you can see let me comment this statement, right? So I'm creating a dictionary object and adding 3 elements, right? And then I'm using this for each loop to look through the collection, right? And whatever other operations we have discussed, right? Every operation you can apply it here. You can use that remove method, remove clear method, right? You can use the contents method, right? Everything what we have so far discussed, everything is also applicable to here. But in this case, the key is going to be the ID, but the value is not going to be the value is going to be the student object, right? And if you want to access the ID name and branch, and on the value property, you need to access the ID name and the branch, right? Don't think that I access the value, it is going to return me the value, because it's not a value type, it's a reference type. Then on the value, what properties your data is holding, that you need to access by using the appropriate properties, right? ID name and values, right? Any question from anyone related to how to work with complex data type? Right, you can see. Any question from anyone? Guys?
Nope.
Yeah, it's very straightforward, right? The whatever operations we have discussed, right? That contents method, contents key method, everything is applicable to here also, right? Okay. There is a method, right? If you go to the dictionary collection, right? We have discussed this indexer. I will come to this key and values. Count, we have already discussed. Add method discussed. Clear, contents key, contents value, remove, right? There is a specific method called a try get. What is the use of this method? Let us try to understand. This is one of the important method of a dictionary collection class. This method takes two parameter. One is the key, right? If you go, first one is the key and another one is the value, right? So what this method is going to return, it returns true if the element, right? What is the return type of this method? Boolean. Boolean means it might be written true or it might be written false. So at what case this method is going to return true, at what case this method is going to return false is basically depend on the key. If the key is available in the dictionary, right? If this key is available in the dictionary, then this method is going to return true. And in that case, whatever the value associated with that key will be stored inside this value variable, which is going to be out parameter. Out parameter means what? The value need to be set by this variable, right? And in the other case, in the other end, if the key is going to return me, if the key is not available in the dictionary, then what will happen? Then this variable boolean, this method is going to return me false, and it will not store the value inside this value variable, right? So basically, if you want to check whether the value, whether the key is exist or not in the dictionary, if exist, then only paste the value. Then in that case, you need to use this try get value method. Any question? Why we, and when we need to use this try get value method, guys? Means what? It means if you want to make, if you want to check and get the value of a particular key, then you need to use, instead of writing that if contents then get the all these things, right? You can directly make use of this try get value. If the value is available, if the key is available, it will return true and the value will be stored inside this variable. If the key is not available, it is going to return me false, and it will not store anything inside this variable, right? Let me show you this thing with one example, right? Here I'm going to work with the complex data type, right? Not the base built-in or string data type. I'm going to work with the complex data type. So here I'm creating a dictionary with three elements. And what are the keys? Keys is going to be 102, 103, and 102, right? So this is my student class having three properties: ID, name, and a branch. I'm setting the ID, I'm setting the name and the branch of three different students, and I'm storing all these three student data inside this student dictionary student collection. I can use a for each loop to access all the elements like this. Using the key, you will get the key, and using value, you will not get directly get the value. If you are using value, then it will give you the fully qualified name of this student class. So, but I want to access the value, then you have to use the ID, name, and the branch properties, right? Then you can see here I'm creating one student object, student std102. So what my requirement is I want to fetch the student details whose ID is 102, or you can say I want to get the student details of the key 102. So what I need to pass? See, in this case, it is giving me some three dotted symbols. So you can remove this to inline variable declaration. So out student std2. So instead of creating here, you can directly create the variable here. This is the advanced version of output parameter, right? So in this case, what will happen? In this case, this try get value method will check this dictionary student, and it will check whether in this dictionary the key 102 is available or not. In this dictionary, is there any key with the value 102? Yes or no? Yes. the key 102 is available, then what it will do, it will fetch the associated value and store inside this variable. Now this std102 will store this value, right? So and then what this method is going to return, if this key is available inside this dictionary, then this method is going to return true or false.
True.
True. True means this if block is going to be executed or not.
Yes.
If this if block is executed, this statement is going to printed, it will print that key is found and these are the associated values. And if this method return false, then this statement is going to be executed. Now see, in this case, I have make this as an inline variable declaration. Even you can also make use of this variable like this. Here you can declare the student variable, and while passing, you have to use the out parameter, right? If you go to the definition, then you can see out t value and value. So t value means the type of the value. What is the type of the value? Student. So out student, then you have to provide the variable name. So just remove this one, right? So now, is there any key with the value 105 available in this dictionary?
No.
No.
So if not available, then this method is going to return true or false.
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 And is there any data going to store inside this variable?
No.
No.
In this case, this if block is going to execute or not?
No.
No, it will not.
Else block will execute and it will give you that this key is not available. Right?
That's right.
Now run the application and see the output. So basically this try get value method will try to get the value from the dictionary. Will try to get the value from the dictionary. Well, it is saying try means sometimes it will get the value, sometimes it will not get the value. When it will get the value, when the key is available. When it will not get the value, when the key is not available. That is as simple as it is. Any question from this method?
No, it is clear.
Okay, fine. Now, as I mentioned you, there are two important properties, right? Important properties. And what type of properties? These are getter method, means you can only use these properties, values and keys to get the values. You cannot set the values. Why? Because set accessor is not available, right? These are your get accessor. Now let us see one example to understand how you can use this get and set these keys and values properties to get the keys and values, right? Suppose in this dictionary. Now my requirement is that I just want to get all the keys. I'm not interested with the associated values. I'm only interested with the keys. Is that possible to get all the keys? Yes, it is possible. How? You have to make use of these keys properties. And in this case, what is the type of this properties key? What is the type of keys in this example? Integer, right? That means this keys is going to return me a collection of what type? A collection of what type? What is the type of your key?
Integer.
Integer means this dictionary student dot key is going to return me a collection of integer, right? So you can see it is a collection of an integer. So to store that value, I need a variable of which type?
Integer type.
So integer type, one by one, it will fetch 101, 102, 103, it will store here, and you can see the keys here, right? Now, once you get the keys, then you can get the values using the keys properties, right? So in this case, it will return you the keys, right? And once you get the key, then you can access the value that is associated with the key. That is what we have already discussed, right? So now, if you only want to access the values, then you can make use of these values properties. And what is the value in this case? What is the type of the value parameter? Student. That means you need to store that values inside a variable of the same data type. What data type? Student data type. Then once you store the value, you can access the ID name and branch like this. Right now, if you run the application, then you will see all the student keys, right? Then you will see the key and its associated value, then all the values, right? So keys properties is going to return us all the keys, and value properties is going to return us all the values. And the keys, that collection type is basically depend on the type you specified for the key parameter while creating the instance, and the type of the value collection is going to be decided by the type parameter which you specified while creating the dictionary for the value parameter, right? Is there any question related to this example? What is this values properties is going to return? What is this keys properties is going to return?
No question.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is fine. Now we need to understand what is the difference between a list and a dictionary. Right? See, both list we have discussed in our previous session, and today we have already discussed dictionary. Both are belongs to the system.collections.generic space, and both are very much similar, and we can randomly access any element from the dictionary, right? But the dictionary is based on hash table. That means it uses hash lookup, which is an efficient algorithm to look up things. On the other hand, a list has to go and check element by element until it finds the result from the beginning. What it means? It means in this case, it is making use of a hash table. What it means? It will create a hash table, and in that hash table, it will store these keys, right? And from that keys, it will go to the dictionary, and directly it will fetch the associated value, right? It's like some, right, the way your tables work in the I mean, you know, table, right? In SQL you can create a table, you can create some indexes, right? Well, while you are creating the indexes, a index table is generated or not, and that index table will store the column values are associated, right? See, okay, let me show you this practically. Suppose you created one table, right? Table, oh, you have created some primary key, suppose some unique key. I'm not talking unique key, and some column 1, right? Column 2 and column 3, right? So based on this UK, that is unique key, a index table will be created or not, right? And let's assume that in this table you are storing some value like this 1001, some data st1, st2, some data st3, right? Then 1002, some st1, right? Let me copy this thing. Okay, I'm putting the same data, right? But data might be different in your table. I'm putting this as 3 and put at 2. So if you are making this first column as, let me make this as column 4, and you make this column as your unique key, then what happen? Unique key means index table will be created, and that index table, it will store 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, right? And this data in the form of a hash, right? Hash means it will convert to a hash, and this will also store the row information, right? Row information. What is the row information? And this 1001 will store the row ID. So what exactly we are saying that our ID, row lookup ID, row ID, right? This is the actual table. This table information will be stored here, and this is your hash table. And whenever you store whenever you try to access any data, right? In this case, it will come to your index table. From the index table, it will get the row ID, I mean row identification where the actual data is stored, and it will directly go to that. Uh, I mean that it will go directly go to that row and get the data. Suppose you are accessing this. So this table, it will come to this hash table. Here you will find the row lookup ID, right? And from once you get the row ID, then it will directly go to the row and get the data. This is how, or this is what happening in the case of a hash table. Hash table, and in the case of a dictionary, right? Dictionary means it will store some kind of hash information, right? Based on a hash table, it uses a hash lookup, and this is an efficient algorithm to look up the things, right? But in the case of list, right? But in the case of a list, so it will so think this is not a dictionary, think this is a list, right? Think this is a list where I'm storing this information. And if you want to fetch the first information, I mean, if you want to fetch this employee data or this data 1001 student data, so it will come to the collection and it will check from the top to the bottom one by one. Once it find the data, so it will check, yes, first information is fine, so it will get the data from this position. Second time you are searching the element 103. So in that case, in the case of list, it will not come directly to this position. So it will come to this place. Yes, the data is not found. It will check the next element. No, data not found. It will then check the next element. Yes, data is found. So in this case, it will paste the data from this. But this is not happening in the case of a dictionary. In the case of a dictionary, it will directly go to the hash table, and from the hash table, it will make use of a hash lookup, right? And by using the hash lookup, it will directly get the data from the collection, right? So the point that you need to remember, right? So two things. One is, suppose you are using a dictionary, right? And if you are using a dictionary, then this is the additional thing which has been done. This is the additional thing. Generating the hash code, generating the row, getting the row information, right? And this is the other things which is happening in the case of what? The data is going to stored in the same order, but this hash table is in a sorted order, right? Based on the hash code, the data is going to be stored in the sorted order, right? And based on the hash code, it is going to find the data. But behind the scene, what happens? Right? Suppose you do not want to use any kind of a find operation. Search operation is not your main intention. You do not want to implement search functionality, right? Then in that case, if you do not want to implement search functionality, then which option you should go for? You should go for list or you should go for a dictionary. If you want to create one collection specifically to implement searching functionality, that your collection having some elements, and you want to only provide the search functionality, yeah, go and find this element, go and find that element. In that case, if search functionality is there and if your collection is a big one, right, then creating a list will impact your application performance. If your collection having 1 crore of data and or 1000 of data, you want to search the 990 record, then in that case, if you are using list, then it will search from the top, right? It will search from the first element till the 990 elements. But in the case, if you are using indexing, if you are using a dictionary table, then it will not it will not search all the elements from the first to the 900, right? It will make use some modulus operation, some other kind of operation, which will decrease the number of comparison, right? And in that case, the dictionary is going to give you 100% better performance than your list collection. But if search functionality is not your motto, other things you want to implement, then in that case, you should go with your list collection. Why? Because in that case, this additional functionality, this additional work, right? Creating the hash table, right? Storing the hash code, getting the row information, this additional functionality will not be there, right? So the point, this is the point that you need to remember, right? The dictionary uses the hashing algorithm to search the element. A dictionary first calculates a hash value for the key, and this hash value leads to the target data bucket, right? In this case, it will generate the hash value, and this hash value will target to the actual data where the data is stored, right? After that, each element in the bucket needs to be checked for equality, right? But the list will be faster than dictionary on the first item search, right? If you are searching for the first item, then the list will give you better performance, because in this case directly it will come to this place and it will get the data. But even though if you are searching an element for the first time, the it will come to this hash table. From the hash table it will go to the dictionary and it will fetch the data. So if you are searching for the first element, then the list will give you better performance. But for other 100%, this dictionary is going to give you better performance. But in the second step, the list has to look through the first element and the second element, and on each step of the loop takes more and more time. The larger the list, the longer it takes. Of course, the dictionary in principle, right? In dictionary, you will get 0, 1. I mean, the time complexity is going to be big O of 1, and in the case of a dictionary, it is going to be sorry. In the case of list, it is going to be big O of n, and in the case of a dictionary, it is going to be big O of 1, right? What element you are going to search, right? What element you are going to search, always the time is going to be constant in the case of a dictionary, but in the case of this list collection, the time complexity is going to be big O of n, where n represents the number of elements, right? If the collection having 10,000, it will, and if you are going to search the 10,000 element, it will start searching from the first element to the 10,000 element, right? But in this case, the time is always going to be constant. And you know that from the data structure point of view, when the time is constant, so the time complexity is going to be big O of 1. And when the time is depend upon the number of elements available in the collection, right? Then in that case, you need to represent the time complexity as big O of n. Clear? Guys?
Yes.
Right, so this is the thing that you need to understand. Okay, let me show you one example, right? See, in this case, I'm creating one country collection, right? You can say country name, country code, and country capital, right? So this is one country. This country is Australia, then India, then USA, then UK, right? Then Canada. 5 countries I've created, right? And if I want to add these countries into a collection, then I have to make use of this list countries dot add method. So it will add the countries like this. And if you want to store the country data inside a dictionary, right, then you have to use this dictionary collection. So in this case, directly the data will be stored like this. And in this case, the data will be stored, in this case, the data will be stored like this, along with this hash table is coming to the picture, right? So this is. Now, if you want to find a particular element, now if you want to find a particular country is available or not based on the country code, then you can make use of this method, right? Right, you can use this find method. This find method search this country code. Whatever country code user entered, you need to check whether that country code is available or not in this list countries collection, right? So in that case, this find method, what this find method will do, it will check the first element whether that what you entered is available, is that matched. Then it will check the second, then it will check third, fourth, and the fifth, right? If the match is found, then whenever it found a match, it will return that content, right? But in this case, this is our other option, which is a dictionary. And you know, it's a content key method, right? In this case, country code, if it is available, right, then get the data. So what kind of operation can anybody tell me is this one? Which operator I'm using in this case?
Ternary operator.
Exactly. I'm using ternary operator. So first I'm checking, right? Is this content key method? See what this content key method going to return? Either a true or a false. Boolean type means it will return true or false, right? If this key what the user enter, if that code, sorry, in this case code, if that code, right, is available in this countries collection, then this method is going to return true, and if it is return true, then fetch the data by using the indexer. If it is not available, then use then return no, right? So in this case, this result country, if it is equals to null, this statement is going to be printed. Else, this statement is going to be printed. Other option is also there. What is that other option? Can anybody tell me? Can anybody tell me, instead of writing these things, is there any other option which we can use?
Get try. Get value.
Exactly. Get try get value, right? So try country dot try get value, right? What you need to pass? The first is this is going to be your first parameter, right? And the second parameter is going to be your out parameter like this. So instead of writing all these things, you can comment this simply, right? And what you need to write, if this method is going to return me true, if this method returns you true, right? Then what you need to do, you need to write this statement. Else, if this method return false, then you have to write this statement. Clear? You can use like this, or you can use like this. If this whatever code user enter, if that code is available in this country's collection, then this method is going to return me true, and in that case the result is stored inside this variable. I'm printing the data. Else this statement is going to be printed, right? And here I'm using to do while loop, right? And this is the inner while loop, which is asking whether you want to continue or not. If you want to continue, please enter yes, or if you want to close, please enter no, right? So in this case, it will take the input from the user. As soon as you are entering yes or no, apart from this your yes or no, if you enter anything, this loop will continue, right? And once you enter yes, the loop will be executed once more, and once you enter no, the loop will be terminated, right? So what are the country code I have? Code is AUS, I'm entering India. Okay, let me. So this, so in this case, I'm going to implement the search functionality. And for search functionality, it is always better to use dictionary. I'm using AUS. See, name Australia, capital Canberra. And do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. Click yes, yes. Enter, I'm entering India. Do you again it is showing me the name and capital. Do you want to continue? I'm saying anything. Instead of no, I just place not. So in that case, it will again loop these things, right? Again, in this while loop will execute, it will ask you yes or no, right? If your choice is not equals to no, and if your choice not equals to yes, so in this case, this method will return true, right? And in that case, these things will be continue again, right? Now I'm entering no, and in this case, loop will be done. So this is how you need to implement the search functionality using dictionary. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So guys, let's take a break for 5 minutes. Then we'll discuss the other collections. Is that fine?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, all are back, guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today I'm trying to complete two more collection classes. Already we have discussed those collection classes in detail, right, in our non-generic. So again, I'm going to discuss the generic version of those two collection classes. One is stack, another one is queue, right? Whatever operations, right, whatever functionality, right, what we discussed so far using our non-generic stack on the non-generic queue, the same thing again we are going to discuss it, right? So, functionality from the functionality point of view, the working principle from the working point of view, both are going to be same, right? But the difference is what we are going to discuss now is the generic version, and what we discussed previously is the non-generic version. But the working principle is going to be same. Let us start the discussion of a stack, right? The stack of T, it's a, it's a generic collection class, right? And its working principle is also similar to the non-generic stack, right? That is the LIFO principle, last in, first out. What it means? Now, it means the item which is added last will be the first one to be removed from the collection, right? This is, you can see this example, stack of books, right? If you want to put one book, then you have to put on top of the other books, right? Whichever book is the top, you have to put the book on that, on top of that book, and the new book what you put, that will again become the top of the book, right? So this is not this is how the stack is going to work. It follows the last in first out principle, last in LIFO, right? And this stack collection class belongs to system.collections.generic namespace, and we have already discussed this example in our stack when we discuss the non-generic stack, right? So the item, the last item added to the stack will be the first item to be removed from the stack. When we add an element in the stack, it is called pushing an item, and when we remove an item from the stack, it is called popping an item. And push and pop, right? Two operations that we are performing on the stack will be performed at one end, right? From one end means on top of the stack, you have to push the element, and on top of the stack, you have to pop the element, right? Both the operations are going to be performed on one end only, right? Now, let us proceed further. Do I need to explain this thing again detail? Because we have already discussed, guys.
Yes, yes, it
Yes,
is.
sir. No need to
No
explain.
need, no need.
Right, because we just need to understand the working principle, right?
Yes,
What
sir,
are how this, because the
yes.
theoretically we have already discussed this thing. Again,
Yes.
discussing the same thing will take lots of time,
Okay.
right? So previously the namespace was system.collections, but now the namespace is system.collections.generic. So the point that you need to remember, the stack collection which belongs to system.collection namespace is non-generic, and the stack collection which belongs to system.collections.generic is going to be the generic collection, right? Previously you used stack constructor to create an instance, and here we are also going to use stack constructor to create an instance, right? But it's a generic type means you have to specify the type for which this stack collection is going to be created. And here the type can be integer, can be float, long, double, right? Any user defined data type like customer, employee, product, you can uh, create any type of collection, right? And we have already discussed how to add element to the stack, right? In the non-generic. So there is a method called push method, and that method is, okay, in the case of a non-generic, what is the type the push method taking? Can anybody tell me?
Object.
Object, right? This is the reason why you can add any type of element to the stack. But in the case of a generic stack, here you need to define the type, and that type of element you can only pass to this push method. Suppose you are creating a stack of integer. Integer means you can pass only integer value to this stack. If you try to pass some other values other than integer, then you will get compile time error, because generic means strictly type checking, right? Type checking will happen at the time of a compilation only. So whatever type you define, that type of data you can only pass to this push method. But if it's a non-generic stack, then in this third statement, what in this time giving you compilation error will not give compilation error if it is a non-generic stack. But it's a generic stack, and in generic stack it is mandatory to define the type parameter, and once you define the type parameter, other type of values you cannot pass. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
And the same for each loop you can use to access the element, right? In this case, no indexing is there, right? So no indexing means you cannot use for loop to access the element, and you cannot use that index position to access the element, right? And as this stack class does not provide any add method, so there is no collection initializer to add elements to the stack. Clear? See, if you cannot access the element by using the indexer, right, then you cannot use a for loop to access the element. If your collection does not support the add method to add elements to the collection, then you cannot use a collection initializer. Clear? These 2 points.
Yes.
Right? Why? Because in this case there is no index position. Then if no index position, then for loop what you are using, that loop variable is pointing to the index position of the collection. So here no index position, then how you can use a for loop? You cannot use a for loop, right? And in this case there is no add method. If you go to the stack collection, then you will find that there is no add method, there is no indexer, right? Let me show you this practically, right? If you go to the stack collection, right, you can see I'm going to use this overloaded version, right? Already we have discussed what is this integer capacity, what is this use of this collection constructor, and this is the constructor. 3 constructor, you can use anyone to create an instance of this class, and you can see there is no indexer. Is there any indexer? No, indexer is not there. So you cannot use a for loop, right? You cannot access the element by using the index position. Is there any add method defined in this stack? No add method. No add method means no collection initializer. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? So you might be some questions, sir, or why I cannot use a for loop to access the element? How you can access? Because for loop in the sense, so if you are creating a for loop, then you need to define one loop variable, right? And that loop variable is always going to be of type integer, and that loop variable pointing to the index position of the element. But in this case, there is no indexer. Then how you cannot use, right? And in this case, there is no add method. Add method is not available, so collection initializer is not there, right? If you try to use the collection initializer syntax, right, like this, then you will get some error. See, I'm getting error. Why? Stack does not contain a definition of for what method? Understand, guys? Stack int of t does not contain a definition for add. So add method is not available inside this class. So you cannot use the collection initializer. Clear?
Yes.
Right? And how to add element means by using the push method. So 1, 10, 20, 30, that is fine. Adding duplicate element is also allowed, no issue. You can add the same element, right? As int is not a reference type, so null cannot be accepted by this tag. See, in this case, this int, it is a value type or reference type? Sorry?
Value type.
So value type means null is not acceptable. If it is a reference type, then null will be accepted. Right? If you go to the definition, then what it is saying, the object to push into the collection, the value can be null, right? The value can be null for which data type?
Reference.
Right? So that is the point that you need to remember, right? See, once you understand the class, right? Once you understand the method, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, right? What is the type of exception this method is going to throw? Everything you will come to know in this case. In this case, you can see there is no exception. There is no chance this push method is going to give you any kind of exception, right? Because exception is not there, right? But if you try to pass this, then it will give you compile time error, right? As stack is of integer type, so string values you cannot store. Why? Because you are clearly mentioning that this collection is going to store integer value. Then how you can make how you can add string value? If you want to add integer and string value, and if you want to follow the LIFO principle, then instead of this tag, what you need to create? Can anybody tell me? Instead of a stack of T, what kind of generic class you need to use?
Stack.
Sorry, stack, but which one? The generic version or the non-generic version?
Non-generic.
Right? This is the difference only, na? If you are going with non-generic, you can store any kind of value. Currently, this is a generic collection or non-generic collection.
Generic.
Non-generic.
How it is generic?
No,
Am I
sorry,
specified?
non-generic.
Yes, it is a non-generic. So you can see I'm storing 10, 20, push, even I can store this null value, that is also fine. I can store this hello value, that is also fine. But as soon as you make this as generic, you need to specify the type parameter. Once you specify the type parameter, now this collection is strictly bound with the integer data type. So integer data type means you cannot pass null value. It will give you error because it's a value type. You cannot pass string value because it's not integer data type, right? Then you can use a for loop to access the element. And in this case, the element which is added last will be the first one to be accessed, right? In this case, if you access, then you will see that 30, 30, 20, 10 is going to be the output, right? 30, 30, 20, and 10. Clear?
Yeah.
Guys, clear or doubt? Any question from anyone? Guys?
No question, sir.
Okay, fine.
No, sir.
Okay, and we have already discussed in our generic. Give me one minute. Guys, we have already discussed this pop method and a clear method in our non-generic stack. Can anybody tell me what is this pop method is all about? The functionality is going to be same, right? What this pop method is doing in the case of a non-generic stack, the same functionality is going to be implemented in the pop method, which is implemented inside this generic stack. So what is the pop method? Can anybody tell me?
It removes the element and it will shows which element is removed.
From which location? From top or from bottom or from where? Beginning or ending? From where it will remove the element?
Top.
From the top, right? That means this method is going to remove and return the element from top of the stack, right? And what is this clear method is all about? It is going to remove all the object from the collection, right? Clear? The same, whatever we discussed with our non-generic, the same functionality is also here, right? So this is my generic stack. Here I'm adding few elements, right? I'm printing all the elements. I'm removing the top element from the stack. After removing, I'm printing the count. I'm printing the elements. Then I'm removing the all the elements by using the clear method, right? Right, so initially 5 elements are there, the value are like this, I deleted 25 because 25 is the top element, 25 is deleted. And once 25 is deleted, 50 will become the top element. You can see 50 is going to be the top element, and after clear, the count is going to be 0. Any question from this example?
No.
Guys?
No question, sir.
Right, this is the same method what we have already discussed, right. Now can anybody tell me what is the difference between pop and a pick method? Pop and a pick method, give me 1 minute.
The pick lets you see the value, and the pop takes it out, removes it.
Right, so the pop method basically return the top element by removing it, whereas pick method is going to simply return the element without removing it. This is the only difference, and we have already discussed this difference in our non-generic stack. The same thing is also applicable here, right? Now run the application. You can see pop 25 is returned, but you can see the 25 is also removed from the collection. Here 50 is returned, but 50 is not removed from the collection. This is the difference between pop and pick method in .NET. Any question from anyone? Guys?
This is already discussed.
Yeah,
Here.
this is already discussed. So what is the difference we have discussed? It is going to remove and return, and pick is going to simply return. And we have already discussed this contents method, right? If you want to check whether an element available in the stack or not, right, then you need to use the contents method. If the element is available, right, then this method is going to return true. And if the element is not available, then this contents method is going to return me false. So in this case, 50 is the element which is available inside the stack. So it is going to return me true, and 90 in this case is not available. So in this case, 90 is going to return me false. So now run the application and see, you will see the first is going to be true and second is going to be false. So we have already discussed this contents method many times, right? Now we need to understand one generic class, right? I'm going to show you the example using complex data type, right? So whatever operations we have so far discussed, I'm going to use all these things using the complex data type. So here I'm creating a complex type called employee having 4 properties: ID, name, gender, and a salary, right? So what I'm trying to do, I'm creating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 employees. Right, I'm creating 5 employees. I'm creating a stack of employees collection, and here I'm specifying the type as employee, so that this employee data I can store into the stack. And I'm using the push method 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times, and I'm entering all these 5 employees data, right? And you can use a for each loop to retrieve the data, right? In this case, it will retrieve the data in the LIFO order, right? This is the for each loop which you can use to access the employee data, right? emp.id, name, gender, and a salary, right? Then I'm here using the count property, which will show me the right. So instead of items left in the stack, so instead of doing this inside this, I can make use. I can take it to outside, so that this would not be print each and every time I run the my loop is running, right? So in this case, it will show you the count as 5, right? In this case, the total number of element is 5, so it is going to return me 5. To retrieve an item from the stack, you need to use the pop method, but the pop method is simply going to return the element by removing the element, right? So in this case, retrieve using pop method. So I'm using the pop. That element will be stored inside, but that element will be removed. Again, I'm storing again, and again. So I'm using 5 times, and you can see after the end of this statement. So here the count will become what? Can anybody tell me? After calling the pop method 5 times, how many elements will be there? Guys?
None.
Null. In this case, null is not there. In this case, it will show you 0, right? So each time you call the pop method, the top element will remove, means what? The count is going to be decreased by 1. So total 5 employees are there, and you call this pop method 5 times means the count will become 0. And once it becomes 0, and you cannot call this pop method, and if you call, then it will give you exception, right? Then what I'm doing, I'm again adding all the elements, right? Again, I'm adding 5 elements to the collection, right? And now I'm calling the pick method, and in this case you can see the count, it will return the top element. Again, the same top element it is going to return, right? In this case, this pick method and this pick method, right, both the time it is going to return me the same data. Why can I know? Why is anybody tell me why I'm going to get the same data? 1 minute, guys. Can anybody tell me in this case, right? Am I audible, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So in this case, it is going to return me employee data. In both the cases, the employee, this pick method is going to return same data or different data?
Same data. Same data.
Same data, because we are not removing, right? Simply each time you call the pick method, whatever the data available in the top, that data is going to be returned. So in this case, it will give you the same data, right? And to check if an item exists or not, you need to use the contents method, right? Let me run the application. See, employee 3 is in the stack, and you can retrieve using pick method both the time. It is going to return me the same data, and retrieve using pop method. You can see each time I call the pop method, the count is become reducing by 1, and finally the count becomes 0. And this is how you can access the element by using the for loop, for each loop. Clear? Or any question from anyone? Guys?
Clear.
Clear, sir. No question.
Okay. Now it is one of the question which you might be facing in the interview. What is the difference between a generic stack and the non-generic stack? See, the generic stack collection class belongs to this namespace system dot collections dot generic, and non-generic collection belongs to your system dot collections namespace. First point is the two different classes belongs to two different namespaces. The generic class, right? The generic class can store only, right? This generic class can store only the same type of elements, right? Whatever type you define for this type parameter, you can store only that type of elements. Coming to non-generic class, you can store same or different types of elements. And the reason for this is it operates on which data type? It operates on object data type. Because of object data type, in the case of a non-generic collection, non-generic stack, you can store any type of data. But in the case of a generic, you have to specify the type, right, while creating the instance, and that type of data you need to store while using the push method, right? In generic stack, we need to define the type of elements that we want to store in the stack. On the other hand, in the sense what, in non-generic stack, there is no need to define the type of elements that we want to store in the stack, because it operates on object data type. We can store any type of data. The generic type is a type shape. The generic stack is type shape, whereas the non-generic stack is not type shape, right? Because why it is type shape? Because you are defining the type, and that type of data you can store. Why it is not type shape? Because it is operate on object data type. And guys, remember, whenever you define a class, or whenever you define a method, if that method is taking object type, right, it is not a type shape. Boxing and unboxing is not required in generic stack, whereas boxing and unboxing is required in a non-generic stack, which will degrade the application performance, right? In the case of a generic stack, boxing unboxing is not required. Integer, you are creating a stack of integer means only integer type of values is going to be stored. If you are creating a non-generic stack to store integer values, then those integer values will be converted to object type, and that object is going to be stored in the database. And while retrieving, again, object will be converted back to integer. That means boxing and unboxing will happen. Because of type mismatch, we may get runtime exception in generic stack. Suppose you want to create a suppose non-generic stack. Suppose you want to create a collection to store integer number, and if you go with the non-generic stack, you can store only integer number, but there is a chance that you can store some string values. If you store string values while retrieving the data at runtime, you might get some runtime exception. But this is not the case with your generic stack. Right? In the case of a generic stack, if you are trying to store other than integer, then you will get a compilation error. Clear? Or any question?
Clear.
Right? And this now if someone asks you, I'm going to discuss the queue collection again. If someone asks you the what is the difference between a generic queue and a non-generic queue, again the same differences you need to tell. The only difference, right? Only difference between stack and queue, it is working on the LIFO principle, that is working on FIFO principle. Otherwise, the differences are going to be same. Clear? Right?
Clear.
Right? Suppose someone asks what is the difference between generic queue and a non-generic queue. Generic queue collection class belongs to this, non-generic queue belongs to that. Generic queue can store only the same type of elements, right? Whatever, you just need to change that stack to queue, everything is going to be same. Simply it is work, if the stack is working on the LIFO principle, queue is going to be work on FIFO principle. That is the difference, everything is going to be same, right? Now the last piece of info part, that is what we are going to discuss, is generic queue. Right, it is not going to take more time, right, because we have already discussed non-generic queue, so generic queue is not that difficult, right? So example, you can take this one, the ATM example. The person who entered the ATM first will be the person to withdraw the money from the ATM first, right? Or you can take the example of ticket counter, right? The person who is standing at the top first position, or the person who enter into the queue as the first person will be the person to get the ticket first, right? This is nothing but your queue principle, right? Queue means it is going to work in the first in, first out. The person who entered the first will be the person to be removed first, or will be the person to be solved first, right? The same principle is also applicable in the queue collection. The items which you added to the queue collection first will be the first item to be removed from the queue collection first, right? In this case, whenever we are adding the element, we are saying it is enqueuing, and when we are removing the element, then it is saying dequeuing the element, right? And in this case, enqueuing is performing at one end, right? You need to enter the element here, and you need to remove the element here, and this principle is nothing but your first in, first out, right? Again, the same fundamental principle. You need to use the queue class to create an instance of the queue collection. First of all, you need to import this namespace, right? Generic namespace. Then while creating the instance, you need to specify the type parameter for which you want to create this collection, or you can say which type of data you want to store inside this queue collection. That type you need to specify here, right? And how to add elements, we have already discussed. We have this enqueue method. By using this enqueue method, we can add item to the collection. But what type of value you can pass to this enqueue method, that basically decided by this type parameter. If you created this queue collection by using integer means, while calling this enqueue method, you need to pass integer values. If you are creating this type parameter by using employee means, you need to pass an employee object while calling this employee enqueue method, right? For example, you can see here I'm creating one collection, queue collection, using integer data type, right? So I can store integer values, but while I'm trying to store other than integer, I'm going to get a compilation error, right? How to access the element? Again, using a for each loop, we can access the element. But in this element, it will access the element in the same order, in the order you added the element. That means in this case, first it will access 10, then it will access 20 like this. And again, in this case, you cannot use collection initializer because this queue collection class does not support or provides that add method. And even you cannot use a for loop to access the element because there is no indexer available inside this queue collection class, right? Now, okay, let me show you one example. Right now you can see this is my queue collection class. I'm specifying the type as integer. I can store some integer values. I can store some duplicate values is also allowed, right? But I cannot store null value. Why? Because it's the type here we specified is an integer, which is a value type, right? How you can make sure it's a value type? If you go to the definition, then you will see it's a string, right? Whenever you see struct means it's a value type, and whenever you see class means it's a reference type. As it's a reference, as it's a value type, so this method does not accept any null value. And if you go to the definition, then you will see that the value can be null only for reference type, but for value type you cannot pass null value, right? So this is not allowed. And again, you can see I'm trying to store some string value. Again, it is going to give me compilation error. Why? Because the type what we specified here is integer, and here we are trying to store some string value. So this is not acceptable, right? Then you can access the element by using a for loop, but you cannot access the element by using index position, right? Suppose you try to access the element like this, right? Suppose you, okay, let's try to access the element by using the index position, right? Suppose I'm trying to access the element by using the index position, and in this case I'm passing some value 0, or let pass 1. So what it is showing me, it is giving me some error, compilation error. What error it is showing? The name enqueue does not exist in the current const. Okay, not enqueue, it should be queue, right? See what error it is saying? Okay, so cannot apply indexing with to an expression of a queue. Cannot apply indexing. Why? Indexing is not applied because indexer is not implemented in this class. There is no indexer, so you cannot apply indexing, right? So this proves that indexing is not allowed. And even if you try to add element by using the collection initializer, right, then also it is going to give you compilation error because the add method is not implemented, right? So this is the point that you need to remember, right? Now run the application and you will get the output as expected. See, 10, 20, 30, 30. Why? Because the first item is added 10, then 20, then 30, then 30. But in the case, if instead of a queue, if it's a stack, then first it will print 30, 30, 20, and 10, right? So is that clear, guys?
Yes.
Right? How to remove the element? In the previous case, in the case of stack, we know there is a method called pop. But in the case of queue, we have already discussed in our non-generic, there is a method called TQ and clear. TQ means it will remove the element from the beginning of the stack, not from the top of the stack, from the beginning of the stack, and it will return that element, right? If the queue is empty, then if you try to remove the element, then it will give you some invalid operation exception. And clear method means this method is used to remove all the elements, right? Now let me show you this method, right? Right. So here I'm using NQ and here I'm using TQ, right? If you go to the definition of TQ, so what it is saying, right? The object that is removed, right? It returns the object that is removed from the beginning of the stack, beginning of the queue. So whatever element there in the beginning, that will be returned and that will be removed. And what exception it is going to throw? It is going to throw invalid operation exception. When it is going to throw invalid operation, when your queue is empty, right? Suppose in this case, what I'm trying to do is, right? So in this case, I just created the queue, and in this case, the queue is empty. right? So in this case, the queue is empty, and I'm trying to call this a dequeue method. So it is not giving you compilation error, right? Compilation error, right? So in this case, it is not showing you, it is not, right? So in this case, this method is not going to give you compilation error, rather it is going to give you exception. See, whenever I'm saying compilation error and whenever I'm saying exception, exceptions are nothing but your runtime error. Whenever some runtime error occur, you can consider that some exception occur, right? Exception means runtime. So this will not give you, any error, compilation error. Rather at runtime, this statement will give you some some exception, right? Let me run the application and show you this practically first, right? I'm running the application and you will see that this statement, it is showing me some invalid exception. What exception? Invalid operation exception, queue empty. This is an empty queue, and on empty queue you are calling this method, so it will not. So how you can make sure your queue is empty or not? Now if queue dot count, right? If queue dot count is greater than 0. If q dot count is greater than 0, then only you go and remove the element, right? If at least one element is there, then you need to remove, right? This is how you need to implement. Don't directly call the queue method like this. You have to make sure that the queue having some element, and then only you need to remove, right? So you can say I'm adding some element, I'm calling the count method, which will show me the number of elements available inside my queue. Then I'm using a for each loop to print the element. Then I'm using this dequeue method to return and remove the element, to remove and return the element from the queue. So in this case, you can see whatever element that is present in the beginning, in this case 10, that is going to be returned and removed. And once that element is removed, now your collection having only 4 elements and the count is going to show you 4. And in this case, when you look through the collection, right, it will print 4 elements. And after the clear method, it is going to display you the count as 0, right? See, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 10 is the beginning, right? 10 deleted element 10. After 10 is deleted, the count is 4. Whatever elements are there, 20, 30, 40, and 50. After clear, the count becomes 0. Clear? Guys?
Yes.
Okay. See, similarly to the pop and a pick method, here we also having a dequeue and a pick. Suppose you want to return the element from the beginning of the queue, then you have 2 options. What are the options? You can use this dequeue method, or you can also use this pick method. If you are using dequeue method, it will return the element, no doubt about it, but it will remove that element from the collection. But if you are using pick method, it will only return the element without removing the element from the collection. So it is up to you whether you want to remove and return, or whether you only want to return. If you want to remove and return, then you need to use this dequeue method. And if you only want to return the element from the beginning, then you need to use this pick method, right? And this is the only difference between dequeue and pick. See, so the count is 5, you dequeue element 10 means you remove the element 10, count becomes 4. So now you pick the element 20. After picking the element, it will not remove 20. So you can see still the count is showing me 4, and 20 is also there in the collection. Clear? Guys? Guys, any question?
Yes, sir.
This is simple, right? What is the difference? What is the difference? We have shown already the difference. How to check an element is exist or not in the collection? You have to use the contents method, right? To the contents method, you need to specify the element, and if that element is available in your collection, then this is going to return me true, else it is going to return me false. In this case, 50 is available, so it is going to return true. 90 is not available, so the contents method is going to return false, right? Now run the application and you will see that first 40 is present. So in this case, each value 40. See, in this case, some mistake in the sense it should be 50, right? So it should be 50. So 50 and 90, you can see 50 is present and 90 is not present. right? So the contents method is going to return true if the element is available, and it is going to return false when the element is not available, right? And this is the this is the example which shows you how to work with a complex type with queue collection. The same example what we have discussed with stack collection. This is the same example. I'm creating 5 employees. I'm creating employees collection, right? I'm adding element by using the enqueue method, right? I'm retrieving the employees, right? Retrieving the data using a for each loop, right? And then I'm using the TQ method, right? Each time you call the TQ method, it will return the beginning element and it will remove that element, right? And again, once you call the TQ method 5 times, your collection is going to be empty. Then again, I'm adding the element, right? Once I am adding the element, again, I'm calling the pick method 2 times. And in this case, this pick method is not going to remove the element. It simply return the element. And in this case, you can see both the pick method 2 times I'm calling the pick method, 2 times it is going to return or it will give me the same data. And here I'm showing you how to use the contents method, right? See, employee 3 is in queue, and here in this case you can see pick method returning me the same data 2 times, and here it retrieve the top record, but sorry, retrieve the beginning record, but after then it will remove that element, right? And here I'm using a for each loop to remove all the elements, right? Any question from anyone, guys?
Nope.
Okay. And the difference we have what we have already discussed, the same difference you can applicable. Yeah. Right. You can just go through the documents and you will understand the difference between them. Right. Any question from anyone related to today's session? What is a dictionary? What is stack queue? Right. If any question, they can ask me now. Right. They can ask me now. Okay.
No questions.
Okay. Thank
Sir,
you.
in yesterday class, we discussed about like find method, right? In that we passed one predicate.
Yes.
So for that we didn't invoke any, we didn't call that invoke method, right?
No, but internally this will manage, no? So you are talking about the comparison delegate, right?
Hmm. Find delegate.
Sort method or which one? You are talking about the find method, right?
Yes.
Right. Suppose, so, okay, let me take the example. Generic list. Can you share me the code?
Hmm.
I have
I
to
logged in mobile, sir. I can't do it.
Sorry.
Logged in mobile.
Okay, you are logged in mobile. So you are talking about comparison delegate or which one?
Where we passed one delegate to find x implies x dot.
Okay. Where is that example? In which document can you tell me?
In first part, sir. Yesterday's
In,
first part.
okay, generic list collection,
Hmm.
right? Find method
Yes.
you are talking about.
Yes, here removal is also there. If we see x implies x dot length.
You are talking about this one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that
Yeah,
predicate.
this is fine now. So I told you now. It is expecting on generic predicate. So we have shown you many times. So
Yeah, I
here,
understood predicate part, but while we are discussing about predicate, we need to pass like data for that, right?
In this case, you just need to pass a predicate, right? So if you go to this one, that this is expecting a predicate whose signature is like this, right? If you go to this one, it's a delegate, right? So what exactly happening in this case? Now here the remove all method internally creating an instance of the delegate. It will internally invoking that delegate, right? Because the implementation of the removal method is not with us. We are not providing implementation to this removal method. Who is providing the implementation? He will only creating the instance of the delegate and invoking that delegate. In this case, are we providing the implementation of this method?
No.
Then who is providing the implementation?
Framework
The framework.
itself.
The framework is internally creating the instance and it is internally invoking and executing the logic, right? So in this case, whatever logic we are providing, the framework internally executing that logic, right? And if you are providing the implementation of this method, then you have to provide the logic to create an instance of the delegate, invoke an instance of the delegate. That is what we have already seen our delegate. If you are creating your own method, if you are creating that your own delegate, right, then you have to suppose then you have to do the things manually. But in this case, I'm not providing the implementation of this removal method. What this removal method requires some argument, right? Requires some input. I'm only need to provide the input. How that input is going to be processed, right? That will be taken care by the removal method. See, in this case, once I'm passing this message, you can see these two elements is going to be removed from the collection. But
So
how
here X means countries.
here? Yes, X
Yes.
means the values, right? Here X
Okay.
means these values. From these values, whose length is less than 3, please remove those values
Yes.
from this collection. Right?
Yeah,
Here,
I got one doubt. Like for predicate, we need to like use dot invoke or else directly we need to pass data. But here,
see, this is the reason why I'm saying these things I am going to discuss in detail while I'm discussing the linkings, right? Because this delegate, this lambda expression, right? Everything is going to be covered in detail once I start discussing the link. I know you people are getting understand. So what is this X here? What is this lambda operation? How this is going to be work internally, right? Everything I'm not discussing that thing in detail right now, right? If you see our course syllabus, right, then there is a LinQ concept, right?
yes.
Yeah, right. So in the LinQ, I'm going to cover all these things in detail, right? What is LinQ? How to write different? What is I enumerable, I queryable? Right? People are having question. Interview, I might be asking what is the difference between I enumerable, I queryable, right? Or what is the difference between this, or how you can write the LinQ query, how it is exactly executing behind the scene, right? What are the different methods available inside LinQ, right? All these things we are going to discuss, right? So once we discuss, then you can easily understand what is the statement. But for now, this X refers to the elements of this country's collection, and in that element, right, any element whose length is less than 3, please remove those elements. That is what this remove all method is saying.
Yeah, understood. So this line I understood. That predicate one only I got down.
Yeah. So predicate means you do not need to create an instance and invoke that instance, right? So I have shown you now many examples. You can convert. See, if your predicate, you can create a method. You can pass that method as an argument by creating an instance of the predicate. Even you can use anonymous method, right?
Yes.
Even you can use that lambda expression. No need to create the no need to create an instance of the delegate, right? Nothing is required. You can directly provide the what you can provide the lambda expression, and you can provide the logic, and that logic what you are providing now, that signature should match with the predicate that method it expects, right? If the signature is not matched, then it will not it will give you some compilation error, right? And I think I have shown you that example also now.
Yes, sir. After all these things, but we passed that invoke method or we passed data to the delegate. So
Right.
here the data we didn't pass, so that's why.
Yeah. Okay, now you understand?
Yes, sir, I understand.
Okay, okay. Any question from anyone else?
There is one method in list. There is for each.
Sorry?
For each method in case of list.
Okay. Parallel dot for each you are talking
For
about, right?
each. I just you were explaining.
Where?
In case of generic, there is for each method is there.
Yeah, for
This
each.
this one, yes. What is this for?
So what is this saying? For each the perform the specified action on each element. Yeah, we are already using this one now. This is the for each loop. Okay, an element in the collection has been modified, right? I will discuss this one, right? I need to go. I need to understand
Okay,
what is
okay.
this method,
Okay,
but
okay.
what it looks similar to the for each loop what we are discussing, right?
Okay, because it in case of like entity framework, when you want to replace some values.
Right, right. So this is what he's saying now. If you want to modify your collection, then you need to use this for each, right? So
Yes,
this
yes,
is
yes.
what it is explaining, and I think I'm going to cover this in entity framework,
Okay, okay.
right? So in entity framework, when when you are accessing the collection, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
if you
Collection
want
when you are
to
collection related classes, like
right
foreign
related
key.
classes, and if you want to modify some of the column data, right? And in that case, you need to use this for each.
Okay.
That is what we are going to discuss in entity framework, right? And guys, to be frank, see, there are lots of methods, right? So it's not possible for me to understand all the methods, right? So see, whichever are required, which are frequently used, right? That is what I can make you understand. But some of the method, right, which they provided as part of the collection framework, it might be possible that I might not use that method in my lifetime, right? But it might be possible that that method might be used on your project, right? Then in that case you just need to go and just go to the definition and see what this method is all about. See, there is a method called exist method, right? Exist method means what? Now it determines whether the collection contains the element that match the condition defined by the predicate, right? Suppose in this case, suppose I'm creating this collection, right? So in this collection, there is a exist method. So countries dot exist, right? So countries just exist x such that x dot contains India, right? So this method is going to return me some value, variable Rachel, right? So you just need to try these things, right? Right. So in this case, initially the value is false, right? Once I enter, you will see that the value becomes true. What it means? Now it means this exist method contains one element with the name India, right? So this exist method means one, it will check whether the element is content, right? Here you need to provide a predicate. It is similar to the contents method. In the case of contents method, you are specifying the element, whether that element is available or not. But in this case, you need to specify the predicate, right? You need to specify a delegate, and that delegate is going to contain, right? So you can see there is another method start with, right? So let's start with, right? Start with here you need to specify the string, right? Here you need to specify the value, right? So start with u, right? Is there any element which is start with u? right? So if you want to check this one, right, it is returning me true, right? That means, is there any element in this cartridge collection x dot x here represent your elements? Is there any element which is start with u? Yes. If at least one is found, one match is found, then this exist method is going to return to true, right? So it's not possible for me to cover all the methods, right? So find last index, right? Find last index, right? So in this case, you can see this is also expecting one predicate, find last index. So instead of this exist method, I'm using find last index, right? So in this case, what you will see, there are one element which start with USA, another is UK. 0, 1, 2, 3. So index position of this USA is 1, index position of UK is 3. Now, if I run this element, then what it will return? It will return me 3. Can anybody tell me why it return me 3?
Because in countries we have.
Because in countries there are multiple elements which is started with U, and the last element index position is 3, which is started with the letter U, right? In this case, what is the last element which is started with U? That element index position is going to be written by this method. In this case, this is the last element, this is the index, but in this collection, this is the last element, right, which is started with the letter U, and what is the index position of that element that is going to return? Find last index. Similarly to the find last index, you have find the first index. Find index, right? Find index means, in this case, it is going to give you the index position of the first element, right? So in this case, the index position is going to be 1, right? So these are the things you need to do practice, right? Right. So once don't. So this is the reason why I'm always saying, don't stop. Whatever I'm explaining, that is fine. But apart from that, many things are there, right? And that you need to check, right? So these are the simple thing, right? There is a find all method is there, right? If I'm using find all method and it is expecting a predicate, right? I'm using find all method, right? This find all method means what? Now it is going to return me the elements which are start with U. And in this case, how many elements are start with letter U? 2 elements are start with the letter U. Okay, so let me do one thing. X dot length, right? X dot length is greater than 7, right? So, and then you have to call the tool. Okay, length is greater than 7, right? So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to find all the element inside this collection whose length is greater than 7, right? So now run the application, right? So in this case, 4 elements are there whose length is greater than 7: Australia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and South Africa, right? Now if you go to this, you can see Australia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and South Africa, right? So you have to do practices like this. And whatever documents I'm providing, that first of all, you need to understand the concept. Once you understand, then you need to check other methods. Right? So suppose in your project you find this final method and you will see that, yeah, sir didn't tell us this final method, and what is this final method is all about. Just go to the definition of this method. It will give you the all the information. We have already discussed what is predicate delegate. If you go to the predicate delegate, it is expecting some input parameter, right? It is going to return me something some delegate, right? So what is this find all method? Yeah, let me open. Retrieve all the elements that match the condition defined by the specific predicate. So whatever condition you provided, if that condition matches, it is going to return all the elements, right? Whatever matched element, that is what it is going to return, right? So you have to and again this final method what I am using here, I can also simplify this using the where condition. How? See, countries, instead of find all method what I'm trying to do, I'm using the where. And this where method is belongs to your system.linq namespace. System.linq namespace. Now you can see countries that where x dot length is greater than this tend to list, right? So in this case, previously we are using the find all method of the list collection class, but now I am using the where method, right? This where is similar to your where clause of SQL Server, right? So now you can see this is also going to return me the same data. Now you need to decide whether you need to go with where condition or you need to use find all method. So this is, you have to read like this: find all the countries, okay, select all the countries from this country's collection where the length of the, where length is greater than 7. You want to provide some other condition? Yes. You want to use some or condition or, right? X dot length equals to 2, right? You can also provide the or condition, and condition, anything. So in this case, can anybody tell me what will be the output? Which type of operator is this? Or operator. Or operator means if this condition is satisfied or if this condition is satisfied, the output, it will return that element. So in this case, how many elements are there whose length is greater than 7? 4 elements are there. How many elements there whose length is 2? Yes, 2 element is there. So total this where condition is going to return me 6 element. You can see, right? You want to sort this data? Yes, you can sort this data. Dot order by, right? Order by x sorted, right? So now if you run this application, right, then you will see the output in ascending order: Australia, Bangladesh, New Zealand, South Africa, Sri Lanka, UK, right? So what this where method, what this order by method, how they are working, everything we are going to discuss in detail once we start discussing in LinQ. LinQ, you can see order by descending, right? You can see this select operator, extension methods, right? Union operator, everything you can see here, right? So we are going to discuss everything in detail. Any question from anyone? Guys?
No,
Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for your time.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Pratik, you can continue.
Okay, after the
Yeah. So all can leave except Pratik. Pratik, is it related to our training session or something personal?